Hi, and welcome back to Paydown Debt Solutions. On this channel, we teach velocity banking. We teach you how to get out of debt and stop doing the insanity of traditional banking. So, today I really want to talk to you guys about how a credit card can help you pay less in interest because a credit card has a special feature. And that special feature is the fact that it is calculated on an average daily balance and it is also a line of credit. And we all know, and those of you, I should say, know who watch this channel, that lines of credit are the secret to getting yourself out of debt. So, my goal is for you, those of you that have been watching and not taking any action, my goal for you today is to make a decision. I want you to leave here today with a decision. That decision might be number one, to try a new way, try a new method, and do something different than you are currently doing. You might choose number two, that you are absolutely not going to try velocity banking and that you're not going to do something different and you're going to continue on your way with traditional banking. And number three, you might leave either way with a decision. That is just what I want from you. Because when you guys sit there on the fence and you sit there with anxiety, okay, the anxiety is caused from usually too many choices, right? When you have too many choices and you don't know how to make a decision, that causes anxiety. Well, making a decision is key and pivotal into moving on and moving forward in your life. And when Dan and I sat there in anxiety because we were doing the same thing over and over and over again, called traditional banking, we didn't move forward in our life. But as soon as we learned a different way, as soon as we learned how to deploy lines of credit to work for us, we got ourselves out of a bad situation, which was a lot of debt. So that is my goal for you guys today, is to do something different, because many of you don't even understand the amount of interest that you're going to be paying over time. You don't know because you're not aware of it, or it's cognitive dissonance maybe and you're willfully blind to it. You don't want to know. But you guys, the power is in knowing exactly what you're facing. If you don't face it, you cannot change it. So change, while scary, change causes growth, and you will change your entire life if you make a decision. But you've got to make that decision either way. All right. So let's talk about today, again, how credit cards can help you pay less in interest. I'm going to also show you one of our students. It's a student scenario, and I love this one. This is a student who got out of nursing, got herself a nice job, but she had lots of debt that she incurred from when she went to school. And as you can see, she's in some pretty heavy debt with Amex and a Sapphire card here. So we're going to talk about how she got herself out of that debt, or is getting herself out of that debt, I should more aptly say, right? Okay, so credit cards can help you pay less, and they can do so because they are a line of credit. So when you run lines of credit through a new way, rather than paying the bank your monthly payment every single month, such as you are currently doing, you will find that you will get yourself out of debt much faster with much less interest owed. Because chances are you don't even know what that bottom line is. Look at her bottom line. $75,315 continuing on the traditional banking way when she has $400 in cash flow, which isn't a lot at the end of the day when we live our life, because we know how life ends up lifing us and, you know, changing things up, right, for us every single month. We always have some kind of a thing come up that causes us to have to pay extra for something, right? Okay, so credit cards can help you pay less interest. Sorry, I had to swallow there. Can help you pay interest, or less interest over time. And they can do it on their own. Okay. So when you have what we call cognitive behavioral therapy. Okay. So if you deploy cognitive behavioral therapy, you will change your situation. Okay. So first of all, what is it? Okay. First of all, cognitive behavioral therapy, it is a way to handle anxiety and negative thoughts. Okay. And so this was something that a man called Aaron Beck in the 1950s came up with. And I can't believe I'm pulling this out of my old psychology stuff, but I am. So it's very relevant here because, you guys, again, when you have anxiety, it's usually because you have too many choices and you don't know what to do with that anxiety. All right. So if you have cognition, right, becoming aware, so becoming aware of what you are doing, right, taking action to change it. All right. So becoming aware is your cognition of what you are doing. That is your behavior, right? So Your behavior to not make a decision is actually a decision. Your behavior to try velocity banking is actually a decision, right? Or your behavior to not try it, again, it's a decision. But either way, making a decision is going to impact you positively, okay? Whether it's the right decision or wrong decision at the end of the day, so long as you have belief in it, you're going to be okay, all right? So the therapy piece is taking action to change it. Well, what's that action? That is making that decision, all right? So when we talk about velocity banking, we've already proved it to you over and over and over again through these videos. And there's other velocity banking teachers out there that teach it to you and have proven that it works over and over and over again. Okay, so we've proved that to you. So now it's up to you to make those steps, okay, to take that action, to change something, to, therapize yourself per se, right? And do something to make your situation different. All right. So we teach again with Paydown. All right. Paydown teaches to organize. Number one, organize, to identify and to implement. 3 steps. That's all we ask of you. 3 steps will change your life. Okay. Number one, when you organize, number one, you're becoming aware of your financial position, your financial situation. Many of you are going to put blinders on and you don't want to know. And I get it because I was actually there. For a long time, I didn't want to know what our financial picture looked like. But when I sat down and pulled it all together and looked at it, it was bad, but it wasn't as bad as I thought. Okay. And so what you then have to do is find a way out, right? You have to find a solution. And we present you guys solutions every day. So the behavior that you're doing, all right, you're going to identify that through your organization, right? When you organize all of your bills, you're going to see, am I overspending? Are there things that I'm spending money on that I don't need to be spending on? Or am I in a position where I can't do anything different than what I'm currently doing? And if so, maybe I have to then, go out and get another job, a better job. Maybe you have to at that point. Or maybe you just need to reorganize your debts and try velocity banking. But in any event, you're going to be now aware, right, by organizing. You're going to see what the behavior is you're doing when you organize. And then your therapy piece is you're going to take action to change it. And that is going to change your emotional state. Okay. When you take action, which is you're identifying your debt destroyer, if you choose velocity banking, you're identifying your debt destroyer and you're identifying the method in which you're going to deploy it. And then you are going to implement it. When you implement it, you are going to feel so much better because now you have a handle, you have control once again over your financial picture. Okay. So organize, identify, and implement will change your life through cognitive behavioral therapy, right? Because that's what this is all about. Changing the behaviors that we're currently doing. Okay. You're changing it in some way, in some shape, and in some form, just like Dan and I did to change our situation. Now, a couple things I want to talk to you before we get into the scenario. Number one is we are going to be giving away our coaching, our free coaching session, a one-on-one coaching session. I didn't get those together today, so it gives you guys a couple extra days to get in your emails to me. Just shoot me an email in the subject line, just put giveaway, and I will enter you into the drawing for that. I'm going to try to do that this weekend. Number two thing that I wanted to talk to you about was we had a comment the other day saying something about, us charging a monthly fee of some sort. You guys, we don't charge anything monthly. I'm not sure where that came up from. They said somebody out there said that we were charging a monthly fee. We don't do that. Absolutely, we do not do that. We do coaching for you. We'll do a one-on-one coaching session with you if you want to do that. And we give you an entire plan. We actually show you the plan and you then get to deploy it. Okay. You can also do our workshops if you want, where you come and it's a small group setting. We sit together, we talk about velocity banking, we talk about your strategy. You actually will get a strategy as well at the end of that. It's just not as in-depth and as in detail as the coaching one-on-one, but it is a great way to sit with other people, learn from other people and what they're doing and their finances so you can see how to work velocity banking. All right, couple things I wanted to talk to you there. The other thing is we also had another comment about the micropay strategy, which is right here. Let me pull that up for you guys. So I do talk about the micropay strategy, and I'm going to get a little closer so you can see this. All right. So remember, the micropay strategy is when you have maxed credit cards and you're trying to use velocity banking and do income in and expenses out, right? So The problem is with some credit cards, when you're maxed, if you put a big chunk of income into the card monthly, all right, if you put one big chunk, they can lower your limits. And so what we propose is that you deploy what we call the micropay strategy, which is this here, okay? And so this is showing an available income of 1620, and we then divide that by 15, because what we're doing is we're putting payments on this every other day, okay, of the month, so that you then don't have that, your limits cut, all right? And so if you did this every other day, which is, 30 divided by, or cut in half is 15, right? So it's 108 a day. Now, I wanted to say that we had somebody make a comment that their credit card company only allowed 8 payments to be made per month. So it could be that they're catching on to us, right? They're catching on to some of these strategies. So you guys, so try then, you can try the 8 if you want, but what I would say is first and foremost, call your credit card company and ask how many payments you can make a month. Simple question, right? You just call and you ask them, they're going to tell you. And if they don't know, then try the micropay strategy and see what happens, doing it every other day. But it's a good thing to know, obviously, if they do have a limit, such as, 8 a month, right? Because you don't want to then have to pay, 15 payments, right? Every other day. And then you can't all of a sudden because the 8th one was it for that month. All right. So call and find out from your credit card company how many you can make. Again, this is the micropay strategy. All right. Let me set that down. Okay. So anyway, good tips. We try to bring all of these great comments to you guys because it is important, right? This stuff is important to you. It's important to me and it's important to you because Dan and I want you guys to be financially free. We felt what you're feeling, the stranglehold that these banks have on us with all these payments that we're making monthly. They're killing us, they're choking us. And so when you have a solution, you guys, when you find a way to handle that anxiety over your finances, try it or don't try it, but do something to make a difference for you, because it's that anxiety that is causing those sleepless nights, right? And so if you make a decision, that anxiety should go away because you've made now a decision and you've moved forward and you're going to try it, whatever that it might be. And I hope it's Velocity Banking for you. That's what I hope for you. However, make a decision no matter what at the end of the day, okay? All right, so we talked about organizing your debts. We talked about identifying your debt destroyer and your plan. And we've talked about implementing that plan so you can alleviate the anxiety that you feel every day, right? Make that decision. Now, let's talk about our student scenario here. And I can show you, we have 2 credit cards and we're going to be working with one at a time in this situation because it actually worked out better for her to do it this way. Now, she has a mortgage. She does. Okay. She decided to go back to nursing school later in life. She had some debt and then she compounded that debt by having to put it on some credit cards. Okay. So now she finds herself in some pretty heavy debt here with a $45,000 Amex and a $22,000 Sapphire card. So she's got some heavy debt. She doesn't have the equity in her home right now. Okay. So there's no equity. She actually did a refi years ago and ate up all that income. And so, or I'm sorry, ate up all that equity. So there is no equity right now to work with, but that's okay because she's going to learn how to run Velocity Banking strategy. And this strategy will work for her. Okay. So let's talk about the situation here. It is a student. And what's funny is she actually said, my American Express is paying for itself. It's paying itself off. And I thought that was pretty funny because it actually kind of is. All right. So we've got an income here of $7,360. We have total expenses of $6,960. So we broke that down into chargeables and non-chargeables because we're going to be deploying a strategy using our credit cards. Okay, that's what we're going to be doing. So she has a mortgage. I didn't write down the mortgage because we're not attacking that right now, but the payment is $2,180. She has a car payment of $712. Okay. Now, we already kind of hinted here that the Amex card is $45,077. The payment is $1,314 at 23%. It is a payback of interest and 1%, okay? And that's why it's $1,314. It will take her 4.9 years, okay? 4.9 years, almost 5 years, to take care of this card alone at $29,052 in interest, okay? So the interest is more than half of what her debt is, okay? Again, American Express is doing her a favor by charging her interest in 1%, right? Because this could be a lot worse if it was less than that, if it wasn't 1% and she was making just minimum payments, okay? Now, we have a Sapphire card here at $22,612. It's for $452, all right? It is at a 22.6%. The payback on that is 12.8 years. So clearly it is less than interest in 1%, okay? It's probably around 2%. The interest amount that she will pay is $46,263. Look at that. She's paying almost double, or she is paying double than what she borrowed if she continues to make this payment this way. So she knows she has to do something, because at the end of the day, again, know your numbers, you guys. You will not get anywhere if you do not know your numbers. When you look at the interest, the debt interest she has here, it's going to be $75,315 to traditionally bank. Make a decision. It is time to make a decision. She can continue to go on this way, or she can try Velocity Banking. She contacted us and she's going to try Velocity Banking. She has made a decision. Her anxiety level went from here to here, especially when she saw the end results, or what the end results have the potential to be. Okay. So we now know that the total debt is $67,689. Her monthly payments on the debt alone, okay, and her DTI is high. I think it's 58%. Is $4,658. She right now can't get any other cards, so she has to do something with these cards, which is why we are going to run one and then the other, okay? Again, her interest amount is $75,315. So we are going to start with our American Express as our DD, our debt destroyer, okay? A DD, debt destroyer. So we then have to calculate what her available interest is going to be, because we know that she cannot, okay? So she cannot pay her mortgage or her car through her credit card. We cannot do that, so she does not. So she has to hold those out of her income, which she's doing here, okay? So she's holding, this is her income, right? Her income. So she's holding $2,180 out, and she's holding out $712, which is her car payment. Now, the other things we cannot pay through a credit card are other credit cards, okay? So we can't pay other credit cards through our credit card. So she has to then hold out $452, okay? Notice I skipped this here, okay? I skipped the 1314. Now I skipped that because we are using that as our debt destroyer. So when we put more income into our debt destroyer, we don't have to make that payment, because our payment is more than satisfied by that income going into that card, okay? So she's putting her income in. We can hold this out of our income. We get to use that as available income, so we don't have to hold it out. And so now our income that we're going to be using is $4,016, okay? That is what we're going to be putting onto this American Express card. Now, at the same time we're running American Express, we are going to be using it as our debt destroyer. So we're running all of our income in and we're running all of our expenses out. But the Sapphire card will have to be paid. And so it is going to be paid off on, or it's going to be paid, I should say, on the side as we're running the American Express through our as a debt destroyer. Okay, so this is going to be still made. This payment will still be made. All right. So now we have to figure out our chargeable expenses, because every other expense we have that cannot be run through the credit card, we are putting on the credit card. Okay, so those are all what we consider chargeable expenses. So our chargeable expenses are, we take our expenses, right, and we eliminate, we have to take away our mortgage. All right, we have to subtract our mortgage. We have to subtract our $712 from our car payment. We have to subtract our payment from our American Express, and we have to subtract our payment from our Sapphire card, because they are non-chargeable expenses. They're still non-chargeable no matter what. So we have to take those out, okay? So we have to, so we know what our chargeable expenses are, right? So our chargeables in this case are $2,302. They are also our living expenses, all right? I didn't separate out and show you the living expenses, but that's going to be groceries, gas, any utilities that you have, your monthly subscriptions, all that stuff that you can pay through a credit card. She's paying through a credit card, and luckily for her, all of hers could be, so she didn't have any extra bills she would have to hold out. So side note is, if you have other bills that you cannot pay through that credit card, you're going to have to hold them out of your income and your chargeable expenses, correct? Because if you hold them out of your income, what that means is that money goes into your checking account. and you have to pay those bills separately out of your checking account, such as your mortgage, your car payment, and your Chase Sapphire card in this case, okay? And if there was another utility bill that you couldn't pay, you'd be paying that out of the checking account as well, all right? So that's how that works. Now, we start with her Amex card, and we are going to put all of the available income, which we've calculated at 4,016. And you can subtract these all out. You're going to get 4,016. So we're putting all of that income in, right? Which immediately drops our balance to $41,061. Okay. So we went from 45 to 41. So what does that do to your interest? What do you think that does to your interest? Well, it drops it, of course, right? And that again is why Velocity Banking works so well. Because these cards are calculated on an average daily balance, you've taken your credit card and dropped it by $4,000 immediately, which changes your interest. Now, we're running expenses through that card, right? We are. So that means that as these expenses hit that card, right, come back in, this is expenses, this is your interest. As the expenses hit that card, the interest amount that you pay will go up, right? So we're going to take an average, and that's exactly how you calculate your interest. So what we do, for an example here, to show you how you would be calculating your interest, is you're going to take your 45,077, you're going to add your low balance, your high balance plus your low balance, okay, which is the 41,061, which equals $86,138, all right? We then are going to take that number and we're going to divide it by 2 to get our average, right? So that's what, 4369? You then take the average and you multiply it by your interest rate, which is 23%. So that leaves us with $9,905 or 6 if you round up for the year, right? So that's for the entire year. You then divide that by 12. The reason we divide that by 12 is we only need 1 month, because we know when we deploy Velocity Banking monthly, our charges go down. So that's where we get the $825, okay? Now, next month, if I run my strategy correctly, it's going to go down even more, right? That it's just naturally going to go down. So we then calculate the $825. So we have to add our charges back in throughout the month. So remember, we started at $45.77. We dropped it by $4,016 to $41.61. We add back in our expenses, and we have to calculate the interest. The interest has to be added in for that month, which takes us to $44,188. Well, if you want to run that another month so you can see it again, we'll do it again. So up here, 44,188 minus the 4,016 drops our balance to 40,172. You add back in your interest, right? You add back in your monthly expenses, your chargeable expenses. You add back in your interest. Now you can see, you guys, your interest has dropped over month from 825 to 808, right? Because we're putting big chunks of income into our card monthly, right? I don't care how you do it. Do it micropay, do it in a chunk, however you do it, as long as all that income that's available to be put onto that card gets put onto that card. So now we're at 43,282. So remember, we're doing our checks here. When we've run our first month here, is 44,188 more or less than 45? Well, it's less than, so we're going in the right direction, right? We want to be working our balance down. And is 44,188 greater or less than 43,282? Well, it is greater than, meaning that again, we are going in the right direction. All right. Now I'm going to take a second to insert a clip in here to show you some of my next steps. Okay. So the next thing we're doing, remember, I told you that at this time, we're running this strategy with the American Express card, income in, expenses out. We're doing all that. But we're also paying our Chase card here, our Sapphire card, at the same time. And we're paying $452 a month on this card, okay? So as we run this strategy, we're also working, we're making payments to this card, all right? So it takes us, so how long do you think it takes us to take care of the American Express card, running it with Velocity Banking? Well, I'm going to show you, okay? So it takes us then 34 months, okay, and we pay in interest $16,210 to get rid of the American Express card. It is gone at this point. At 34 months, this card is gone. You have paid $16,210, which is far less than $29,052. But we still have that Sapphire card out there, don't we? So we need to find out what the balance is of that Sapphire card at this point, and then we switch our debt destroyer to that Sapphire card. American Express is gone. We then take it over using that that Sapphire card. So this is where you have to use your amortization schedules, right? So we go out there, we find out what our Sapphire card is at the 34-month mark. We get the balance, and then we have to add up the interest that we've paid, right? Because that has to be added to the 16,000. Okay, so that has to be added, and then we're going to deploy Velocity Banking again, right? But this time with that Sapphire card. So I'm going to show you exactly how you do that with an amortized schedule on the computer.
Now, just like I do, I'm going to go ahead and go to an amortization schedule for your credit cards, right? And I'm going to put in the amount of the credit card for, let's see, it's the Chase Sapphire card, the $22,612, okay? And we're going to put it in at the interest rate, which is 22.6%. We're going to calculate it. And it shows you our payment is $452. Well, we know that because we already put the payment in. But then you're going to get your schedule here. And we know it took 34 months to take care of the American Express card. So we go down to 34 months, and we're going to take that. First of all, we know that our new balance is going to be starting at $21,382. But we're going to calculate all of this interest because we have to add that into the amount from our American Express card as we ran it through Velocity Banking. So you can go ahead and highlight all of this down to 34 months. And then we're just going to copy it. So the easiest thing to do is just copy it all. And then we take it down into our Excel spreadsheet. Okay, so I'm just going to take it to an Excel spreadsheet. And I'm going to show you what that then looks like. Okay, give me just a second here. We'll pause it. Okay, so here I'm just going to paste it in. We're going to Control V, paste it in. And then we have to start with our interest. And we're going to highlight all of the interest here, right? So we're going to take this all the way down, highlight it. And we're just going to hit our sum. So where's our sum? It is, give me 1 second to find it. There it is. We're going to hit sum it. Okay, so if I scroll down, gives me the sum, so 14,138.44. So let me zoom in, let you guys see that. 14,138.44, and that is all the interest for 34 months for that Sapphire card as it's running at the same time I'm doing Velocity Banking. So that has to be added into my end calculation.
Okay, so you just saw how I calculated, number one, the balance of that Sapphire card, and then how we would add up the interest over that 34 months in time so that we know exactly what we're moving toward and how much our interest is going to be. So this is exactly how you guys are going to build your plans. When you're trying to figure out what is the best strategy to deploy, you're going to do this and you're going to use those amortized schedules to figure out what the interest on those credit cards is going to be if you hold that payment static, because that's really the best way to figure it out. And it also helps because it works in your favor, even though it'll actually work out to be more than what you should actually pay, so long as you run your finances the way you're supposed to through Velocity Banking and you don't go backwards too many times, okay? It could happen. You might have a month where you go backwards because life happens, life's us. You're going to put extra things on the credit card because you may not have a choice, right? So we found out that it at this point, at 34 months, right, we're at 21,382. Think about that, you guys. 34 months, right? We started with a Sapphire card of 22,612, and we've only paid it down. We've only paid the balance down to 21,382 in 34 months. That is all because of how that card is being calculated, and the way that it's calculating the interest looks like it's at 2%. So what does that mean? That means if you were to traditionally bank this out, it's going to be $46,263 in interest that you will pay, right? Wrong, because we're going to do something different today. All right. So we're taking and starting now with our Sapphire card as our debt destroyer. That has now become our debt destroyer. American Express is gone. So we start with 21,382. We put our income in, and you'll notice my income is different, right? It's 4468. Well, why is that? Because this payment now, right, in a sense is coming back to us. We don't have to hold it out of our income. So we can add it back in, right? So what is it, 452? All right, so 452. All right, you add that in and you're going to get 4468. 4468. Don't have to hold it out. Remember, again, because we're putting our income into that card, right? We're putting our income in. And so when we put our income into that card, that payment is satisfied. So it all comes back and works down that card, works down the debt. So this is why we do velocity banking. Now, we start with 21,382. We put our income in. It drops us to 16,914. You get your high and low, right? You're going to average that. You're going to multiply the average. Well, sorry, you're going to divide the average by, you're going to add the 21,382 to the 16,914. You are then going to divide that by 2, right? And you're going to multiply it, in this case, by 22.6%, okay? Because that's the percentage of that card. That's the interest rate. All right, so you're going to then take the number you get from multiplying that, and you are going to then divide it by 12 to get your monthly interest rate, which is the 360. And if you guys want me to prove it to you, because, you know, I fluffed that big time, right? Or flubbed it, I should say. So 21,382 plus the 16,914 equals 38,296. We're going to divide that by 2 to get our average, which is 19,148. We're going to multiply that by 0.226, and that gives us 4327. We then divide that by 12, which gives us, boom, 360. Okay, so sorry about that. Anyway, so we then run this card, okay, and how long does it take, right? How long does that take? Well, now, and I should back up for a second and say, now, this is what the balance was. The interest we've paid in 34 months on that Sapphire was $14,138, okay, which then has to be added to the 16,210. All right, so we have to add those together. Now, we then run this with our expenses, our income in, our expenses out, right? So we run this and it takes us 9 more months to do. So that takes us 9 more months to do, and we spend $1,960 to do it. So what is the end result, right? What is the end result? Well, the end result is it takes us 34 months plus 9 months, right? Which is 43 months, which is, again, 3.5 years versus the very least 4.9 years, right? The very most 12.8 years. So it takes us to get this all done 3.5 years. Now, what did we pay in interest? That then is the question, right? So if I take my 16,210 and I add my 14,138 and I add my 1960, that equals $32,308. Okay, so 32, what was it, 308? 308. Now, this is a pretty decently large number, right? Sure, seems that way. Until you compare it to 75,315. It is less than half, right? This is why you guys need to decide now. Get rid of the anxiety and make a decision, right? Make a decision to do something different. You can watch videos all day long. You can watch these videos. But if you don't take action, if you don't try it, if you don't move through that door, you are never going to get rid of the anxiety. The videos will help you. We show you every day how to do this. If you want extra help, like I said, we do coaching plans. We also do workshops. There is help out there for you, and we have it. Other velocity banking instructors out there have it for you. But make that change. Walk through that door, you guys. Cognitive behavioral therapy. Do something to make your change. You organize all of your debts. When you organize all of your debts, you're going to identify what problem. You're also going to identify the problem that you have, probably, right? And once you do that, you're then going to identify the strategy you want to use and that debt destroyer, and then you are going to implement, and baby, you are home after that, right? You're home. So 32,308 versus 75,315. We cut time down to 3.5 years. Time is money, and I know you guys know that. Again, we will do the drawing at probably this weekend for you guys. So if you want to get in for a free coaching session, just shoot me an email in the subject line, just put giveaway. I don't even care if you guys subscribe. We just want you guys to get paid back. We want to give to you as much as we can when we can, okay? So again, email us at info@paydowndebtsolutions.com and just put in the subject giveaway, and this weekend we will announce a winner for that. Have a great day, guys, and I will see you in the next video.